approved.
Well, no, that's fine.
I just need to find it.
We can do it for the jury.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Take your seats, please. Ms. Sandhu,
Yes, sir.
will you confirm on the record that you understand that the oath that you took this morning still continues to apply to you this afternoon?
I do.
All right, thank you. Mr. Clark, you can continue with your cross-examination, or you can identify for the record any additional exhibits that you intend to use related to this witness if they have been stipulated to and are without objection in the state.
Thank you, sir. There's three additional photographs, and I want to go in, if it's okay with the court, and go back. We reserved one exhibit. I think it was number 26 or 25. We'll go and fill that one in with a photograph.
And you see, it would have been. Let's see, what number are you associated to?
Well, I made a mistake and started. We can just go from where we left off. That's probably easier. Could you advise me? We left off at number 40, correct?
No, we're already at the watch. The photograph of the watch was 280.
No, defendants.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
My apologies. Yes, you did. There is a gap, which would be 26, or you can begin with 41.
I'll start with 41. Your Honor, there's three photographs, defendants 41, 42, and defendants 43, Your Honor. All three are photographs that have been stipulated to by the state.
All right, and they're generally photographs of?
The bed, the bedroom. These are photographs of pillows and bed sheets.
Other items within the same room?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And again, Mr. Prindle, will you confirm to the court that the state has no objections to the proposed defendants' exhibits 41 through 43?
State has no objection.
All right, the court will admit defendants' exhibits 41, 42, 43 into evidence. Go ahead and proceed with your cross-examination.
All right. Good afternoon.
Hello.
All right. So before the break, there was a discussion about what had been delivered to your office and had been marked Exhibit H, correct?
What had been marked as item 52? Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go back to that in a moment. I want to clear some other issues that are a little bit easier. You looked at a couple of photos. You looked at some pillowcases, correct?
Pardon me?
You looked at some pillowcases. You examined some pillowcases.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purpose as defendants 42. You ready? Oh. Can you see defendants 42 on there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does that appear to be consistent with one of the pillowcases that you examined?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And defendants 42 actually... Defendants 42 actually shows several pillows, right? I think there's at least 3 pillows there.
Yes, if the ones at the back are pillows too, yes.
Okay. And I'm making reference specifically to at the tip of my pen, there appears to be brownish red stain. Does that appear consistent with the pillowcase that you looked at?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And let me show you one more. Then I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification as defendant's 41. Does that appear to be a pillowcase that you examined as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then defendant's 43. Are those also appear to be pillowcases that you took a look at, whether you examined?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then finally, the defendant's 34. Defendant's 34, there's clearly an evidence marker H there, right at the end of my pen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then we see two pillowcases that have been depicted in other photographs, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, let's talk for a moment. Did the pillowcases come to your office, and did you make a notation the pillowcases were included in Exhibit H, or did they come separate? Now, if you were to see these pillowcases, would they have any markings on them indicating that you examined them or anything like that?
Yes.
Davis, those here, pillowcases. And those were 44 and 45, correct?
That's correct.
Redbird Swing.
Yes, go ahead. I just want to make sure, because we originally had a list of states exhibits. Somehow I have to believe that these were potentially identified as the states on the state's witness list as well.
They have.
Just make sure you're referring to them as a state exhibit or now a defendant's exhibit.
These have been previously stipulated to.
As a state exhibit or a defense exhibit.
These are going to be marked as states exhibits, but it's...
And I have to assume that they appear on the original list of 220 exhibits.
Yes. These will be exhibits number 78, state exhibits 78 and 79, Your Honor, which are already, they were on the initial state exhibit list.
All right. So again, I'm assuming, Mr. Grindle, that you have no objection. These are states exhibits 78 and 79.
Okay.
All right. Then the court is going to admit both of these exhibits, which are the white pillowcases that were identified with the letter H. And these will be admitted into evidence. Go ahead. Mr. Clark.
I can approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, please.
So I'm approaching with what's been marked states 78 and 79 for identification, which from your office are labeled 44 and 45. Can you examine these and tell us, can you open them and look at them, and I'll have some more questions for you.
Okay, which one would you like me to?
Let's start with the lower number.
And let me see. Do you have a pair of scissors?
No, I do not.
do you have gloves up there? You do, don't you? You have
Yes, sir.
gloves? Okay. These for me, man. Go ahead. Okay, can you unfold that? Correct?
Yes.
And looks like you made some markings in that pillowcase. Can you tell the jury what those markings are?
So there are two markings here. One is where I took, I saw 3 small spots of red-brown stain, and I took the stain and did blood testing to test for the presence of blood, and blood was indicated on item 44. And then I consumed the other 2 stains for further testing.
Okay. And your conclusion, I believe, was that the source of this blood was Tai Chan, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Jeremy Martin's DNA was not discovered, or you didn't locate Jeremy Martin's DNA on this, what you've marked 44, which has been marked 78 for identification, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So go ahead and open the next one.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what are you holding up, if you'll describe it for the jury and for the record?
So it's another white pillowcase.
Okay. And when you received that from the police department, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And when you did a visual examination, you were able to see some items of interest, correct?
That's true.
Okay. Tell the jury what you found.
On this one, I saw this large stain and then very small red-brown stains around. And then I saw one stain on the back here. And when I tested these for the presence of blood, I tested 4 of them and they were all positive for blood.
Okay. I'm going to show you again what's been marked Defendants 34 for identification. Can you tell me whether the pillowcase you're holding is consistent with the pillow and the spot where my finger is exhibited in 34? And
Why don't you point to it again? Thank you.
Yes, sir, it appears to be.
Appears to be the same. So the pillow exhibited in Defendants 34, the case on that pillow appears to be consistent to you to what you're holding up there, which is states 79.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. And then regarding your findings on this pillowcase, when you conducted a DNA test, that blood was, the source of that DNA was attributed to Tai Chan, correct?
45, yes, it did. The blood was indicated on item 45, and to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, Tai Chan is the source of the DNA profile on item 45.
And Jeremy Martin's DNA was not discovered on this pillowcase either, correct?
That's right.
Okay. All right. Now, let's talk for a moment about the sheet you looked at, okay?
Right.
All right. So when I asked you a moment ago to identify a photograph before lunch, there was some confusion, probably on my part, because the sheet you examined didn't have as much blood on it, correct?
That's true.
Okay. May I approach the witness with an exhibit?
Yes, go ahead.
We'll need to mark it too.
And this would be exhibit, I'm assuming it's already listed on the state's exhibit.
It's listed on the state's witness exhibit list. I think it's 80, but it needs to be marked.
Right. Number 80 is listed red substance, letter H, from the bed of room 711. So if you'll please mark it as State's Exhibit number 8.
And I approach with the shot?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, sir, I'll need another pair of clean gloves too.
I can give you these.
Thank you. Oh, I won't use yours. Thank you much.
Let's set this here. All right. So, can you tell the jury, if you will, what I just set down in front of you?
This is a package that has my initials and case markings and item 52.
Okay. And what is item 52, just so the jury can know what we're looking at?
As per my notes in the case report, it is a bed sheet.
Okay. Can you take the bed sheet out and talk to the jury, talk to us about what you discovered on that piece of evidence?
Because of the possible size of it, you may stand up and ask Detective Paulos if she will be
Thank you.
displaying it to the jury.
May I get out of here?
Yes, if you'll bring the microphone around to
Right there. So it's a white bed sheet and it's folded like that.
make sure you speak up as much as possible.
It's a white folded bed sheet, a flat bed sheet.
Okay. And ma'am, on the edge of the bedspread or the bed sheet, there appears to be some writing, correct?
That's right.
And then that's near the hem or near the end of the sheet, correct?
That's true.
Okay. And you discovered some item of interest on the bed sheet, which is evidenced by the markings, correct?
That's true.
Okay. And tell the jury, if you will, what you found.
So there were these three small red-brown stains, and I tested it for the presence of blood, and blood was indicated on the stain. I then went ahead and took the largest of the stains for further DNA testing.
Okay. And that DNA testing resulted in, well, what was the result of that DNA testing?
To a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, Tai Chan was the source of the DNA profile that was obtained from.
And was Jeremy Martin's DNA located anywhere on this sheet?
Not on the stain that I tested.
Okay. And you would have given the sheet a visual a once-over to see if there was any other stains you might have missed, correct?
That's right.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you, ma'am. And I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. I'm going to have you look once again at Defendant's 43 and look specifically at the brown spot in Defendant's 43, and I'll point to it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you had nothing to do with the evidence collection in this case, right?
No, sir.
And nor with any requests about what should or shouldn't be tested, right?
That's right.
Okay. Does the marking or the brown spot in Defendant's 43, which does that appear to be consistent with what you just showed the jury from the sheet?
Yes.
Okay, and let me show you another one that's a little bit farther back if you have any doubt. I'm going to show you Defendant's 34, which is a little bit distant, so we have the marker for H, right?
Yes.
And then you can see that it appears to be the edge of a sheet outside of the bigger, like a duvet or a blanket, right?
That's right.
Okay. And so what is depicted, I'm pointing directly to that spot right there, that appears to be consistent with what you tested, correct?
Yes, it appears to be.
All right. Now, just to clear up any confusion, you received both the sheet that you tested and also a white blanket, and it was all marked Exhibit H, correct?
I did not receive a blanket.
You did not. The blanket was never delivered to you for testing.
No, sir.
Okay, that's fine. The, and you can only test what you receive, right?
That's right.
Okay. Now, there was, you produced your report, it looks like, on or about February 2nd of 2015, right?
Yes,
Okay. And after you produced your report, there were communications back and forth between you and Detective Paulus, correct?
that's right.
Okay. And in fact, after you produced your report, I think on maybe the 4th or the 5th of February, Detective Paulus asked you if you could retest some things, correct? Would it refresh your recollection if you saw those email communications?
Yes.
May I approach the witness with the computer that has the email communication just to refresh your recollection?
As long as Mr. Brindle has shown it before you approach.
So, may I approach the witness?
Yes, let her approach and then have her review it so that she can refresh her memory.
Sure. May Mr. Garrity help me?
Yes.
Make that go back to the bottom.
In fact, try not to touch it anymore. That way you
Is this where you need it? Okay. You can scroll up.
Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
Okay, so you've had the opportunity to review these email transmissions back and forth between yourself and Detective Paulus, correct?
Just the one that's in front of me right now. Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay. And the date of the first email communication is what date?
February 4th, 2015.
Okay. And during that email communication, you sent your findings regarding the presence of, regarding your various findings, correct?
Pardon me?
On this date, on the 4th, you transmitted your report to Detective Paulus, correct, on February 4th?
That's right.
Okay. And on February 4th, the Las Cruces Police Department presumably had the benefit of your findings both about DNA on the gun and on the bed, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Now, following that initial transmission of the report, there were communications back and forth between you and Detective Paulus about retesting some items, correct?
It seems she only had questions regarding what I had tested.
Okay. And then there was one question about retesting the gun, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. And you were never asked at any point in time during this investigation to conduct any DNA testing on this, on the blanket, the white blanket, correct?
that's right.
Even though you issued a report on February 2nd, and it was transmitted to the Las Cruces Police Department on February 4th, and they knew of Tai Chan's DNA on the bed, nobody ever issued a request, anything at all to test the larger blanket. Is that right?
It was never submitted for testing. That's right.
All right. And like I think I asked you this, you only test what's delivered to you for testing, right?
That's true.
You can't unilaterally take action, can you?
Pardon me?
You can't unilaterally take action. You don't do things on your own. You do
No.
things, a department will ask you to test something and you test it, correct?
Whatever they submit for testing, that's right.
So based on what you tested and what you know and what you can say as a scientist, the only DNA that you were able to discover on that bed was from Tai Chan in the form of blood, correct?
All the 3 items that I
Gold patterned or whatever, a dust rubble to test whether or not that substance was indeed blood, and if so, whose it was. Did you ever receive a dust rubble?
No, I did not.
Okay. And then just above that, as depicted in 33, did this white item, which I submit is the blanket, did you never receive that for testing? You've never seen that before, right?
No, I haven't.
Okay. And defendants 32, I'm going to point to, can you see some spots of brown substance on the floor there that appear to be, well, I don't, they're brown droplets?
Sure.
Did you ever receive any swabbing from the hotel room floor to be tested for blood and or DNA?
I just received swabs from marker 10 and then those 2 letters.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you about those specifically in a moment because I have those exhibits. But based on your notes, you didn't receive any swabs from the carpet in room 711, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay. I'm going to put back up 32 and ask you if you can see an item that's partially under the bed. I'm pointing to it. Do you recognize that item?
I can't make out what it is, but there's something there.
Okay. Does it maybe look like that watch that you received and tested?
Yes,
Okay. And now that was collected and sent to you, correct?
that's right.
Okay. Then I'd like to talk about that for a moment. That watch was processed, correct?
Yes,
And you were able to get DNA from that watch, right?
that's right.
Okay. And the primary contributor to that DNA on the watch was who?
So item 46 was the watch, and a DNA mixture of 3 or more individuals was obtained from item 46. To a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, Tai Chan is the source of the major DNA profile that was resolved from this mixture. Jeremy Martin could not be eliminated as a possible contributor to this mixture.
Now, understanding that you're not an expert in watches or watch repair, did the item that you received, the watch, was it damaged?
Yes, it says one wristwatch with a broken band.
Okay. And so you were able to conclude that Tai Chan was the major contributor and Jeremy Martin could not be excluded as a possible contributor to DNA on the watch, which is item 46, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to show you what's been marked as, I've got 2 photographs. This is defendants 37, which there's a small marker right there, F. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. Then I'm going to show you a more close-up of defendants 38, which also depicts F. And you received F. You received a swab of F in your office, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And this, it tested positive. It was positive for blood, correct?
Item 87, the swab from letter F, blood was indicated.
Okay. And that was Jeremy Martin's blood, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And then you talked about receiving, let's see, it's item number 81 on your list. There was, it was for marker 10, and I'm showing you defendant's 39. Do you see marker 10 there?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you have any reason to believe that that's not a swab from, that you received in your office?
I received a swab from marker 10.
Okay. And that appears to be a marker 10, right?
Yes, sir.
And you determined that that was indeed blood, right?
I'm sorry, that was item 81, right?
Item 81, yeah. There's so many
Blood
numbers.
was indicated on item 81.
And that blood was attributed based on your laboratory work to be Jeremy Martin, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And then finally, well, one more of this. I'm showing you state defendant's 40, which and I'll point you to the marker C. You see that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And then on your sheet or on your report, that's item 84.
Item 84 is the swab from letter C.
And that was determined based on your testing to be attributed to Jeremy Martin.
Yes.
Okay. And just one more photograph that I didn't show you. Defendant's 36. I asked you a moment ago to identify whether or not you received a cell phone in your office or in your lab. The cell phone depicted in F. That's a cell phone I showed, and you received no cell phones, correct?
No, I did not.
Item number 57 was a white container, right?
Yes, it was.
Do you know where item number 57 was located?
All it's stated on the package and what I have written in my notes is that it was labeled black Under Armour bag 1-N.O370 white plastic container.
Okay, and it's based on the receipt you received, based on the information you received, it was contained within a black Under Armour bag. Is that what it says?
I don't know if it was in, but that's all it said on the label on the package itself.
But you reached the determination that the test of that white container, or the white container labeled 57, that was not blood, correct?
Yes, there was some red-brown staining on one side of that container, and when I tested it for the presence of blood, blood was not detected.
Okay. And then finally, the state showed you some exhibits or some photographs of a pair of blue jeans, right?
Yes,
Okay. And there were two areas of interest. There was a blood droplet on the lower hem or toward the bottom of the pants, correct?
near the lower left seam of the pants,
Okay.
yes.
And that was labeled 32B, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And you determined that was indeed blood?
Blood was indicated on item 32B.
And and you were able to determine that the contributor to that blood, or that sample, was Jeremy Barton, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Then there, on other locations, more toward the thigh of those blue jeans, there were other reddish-brown markings, correct, or reddish-brown stains?
Yes,
And you tested that, and it was positive for blood?
32A.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, we can't provide anything.
Sure, Judge.
Please restate the question.
Sure. On item number 32, the blue jeans, we were talking about the second area of interest, more toward the middle of the thigh.
The stain on the leg, yes.
Yes. And that was a brownish stain that you tested and determined to be blood?
Yes, sir.
All right, and you were able to reach the conclusion that it was indeed blood, and the source of that blood, the source of the DNA in that blood was Tai-Chan, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. There were two projectiles you tested, number 78 and 79, correct?
Actually, I tested 3. One was in the hand towel, and then 2 were just projectiles.
I'm sorry, I missed it. Yeah, in the, on item number 56, that's a projectile. There was no DNA recovered, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then on item number 79, which is also a projectile, there was no DNA recovered.
That's right.
And then on item number 78, there was, it tested presumptively positive for blood, and you tested that for DNA?
Yes, sir.
And that was determined to be the DNA of Jeremy Martin, correct?
Item 78, yes, sir.
All right, so did you do any other reports or issue any other findings in this case?
No.
Could you hold on for a second? Go ahead. So let me just ask you some questions about your laboratory. So had, in any case, not just this one, but in any case, is there generally a time limit on when DNA can be tested? Like say, for instance, does it have to be tested within the first 30 or 45 or 60 or 90 days after an incident? Or can you retest things over a period of time so long as that sample remains intact?
As long as the sample remains intact and nobody else touches it and deposits their DNA on it, it can be retested.
So there's not going to be, for instance, some sort of bright line date at which you can no longer test, for instance, a sample of blood?
No.
Okay. In fact, oftentimes DNA analysts are called upon many, many years later to analyze DNA on cold cases where bodies are recovered and things of that sort, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And so in this case, there certainly wasn't some sort of time limitation concerning the comforter or the cover, in this case, the white blanket, right?
But that was never submitted.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Yes.
There's not some sort of, it didn't, in your experience, there wouldn't be some sort of time limitation on the ability to test that blanket, right?
No.
Okay. May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Clark.
Your Honor, pass it.
Thank you. Mr. Prindle, is there a redirect examination?
Yes, Your Honor, just briefly, thank you. Ms. Undercomer, items received by your lab, are they always from police agencies or are they from different agencies?
They're all from, depending on whose case it is, we cater to all the agencies in New Mexico.
And in a case, in any particular case, would you make your services available to the defense if they wanted some testing done?
Yes.
There's no limitations on that?
Part-
Your Honor,